Shaping Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, more letters are going in, more public letters are going in. The 27th, Theresa Villiers, former Cabinet Minister. 27 people who've publicly said, my letter is in, I want to trigger a vote of no confidence in Mrs May as leader of the Conservative Party. Now, we know the number's higher than that. The editor of the political editor of The Sun suggests that it's 42. Some in the ERG group think it's over 48, although Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of the 1922 committee, has said that's not the case. What we do know is that it's not 27, because I've spoken to a couple of MPs who says, yes, our letters are in, but we've agreed with our associations we're going to keep that as a private matter. So we must be getting close. What, for me, is astonishing are people like Bernard Jenkin MP, who came on with Nick Ferrari this morning, who talks about the withdrawal agreement. He didn't quite use my phrase, the worst deal in history, but pretty blooming close to it. That May's got it all wrong, it's a disaster, it's a failure of leadership. And then Nick says, well, have you put your letter in? Well, no. And quite why he and Owen Paterson and Ian Duncan Smith and David Davis haven't, I guess it's this old thing that being seen to be loyal to the party seems to matter more than almost anything else, even when you think that what's happening is a disaster. I have to say, from my point of view, I've been arguing that July was the moment to have done this. Once the Chequers plan was unveiled, once we had the resignations of David Davis and Boris Johnson, that was the moment to strike, but Boris wouldn't do it, would he? You know, Boris condemned the whole thing and then said, I support the Prime Minister, none of which was particularly believable. I think these people are doing the right thing. I know some of them want to wait and have it based on the issue, namely the vote that will come in the House of Commons. And remember, Mrs May will be there on Sunday in Brussels with all the other leaders of the country finalising this deal. So we're likely in early December, whether it's the first or second week, no one yet knows. The chance will come to rebel, but quite why they won't trigger this contest before, I don't understand. I believe they've put the interests of the country above the interests of the party. I believe they've put the interests of the country above the interest of their own careers, because many of them have actually resigned to do this, and I believe they're doing the right thing. But there is another argument, and we began to see this on Friday, when Mrs May said, well, of course, it's either my deal or there could be no Brexit. I mean, I was absolutely hopping mad when I heard her say that. But now the implication is, well, of course, if you don't back this deal, you risk Brexit not happening. And a really full-on attack today from Max Hastings, writing in the Times, we'll all pay for the EU obsession of the right. He describes the people that are signing the letters and saying they'll vote against the deal as a faction of fanatics. He blames everything that's happened, including the referendum itself, happening on the Conservative right, or UKIP, its rude word, offspring. He talks about the dark influence of the right upon the fortunes of us all, and of course finishes up with the standard line that what these people will do is they'll bring us to a Corbyn government. And all of this reminds me so much of Maastricht 25 years ago, when they were all told, if you oppose what John Major signed, you'll let Labour in. And you can't do that because, after all, tribal party politics matter far more than the future destiny of our nation. It's the kind of thing that drove me into getting involved with UKIP. So tell me, do you, like me, think that these Tory rebels are acting in the national interest, or are they just a faction of fanatics? And if you think they're obsessives from the fringes of society, call 0345 6060 973. Or maybe like me, you think, nope, they've got an absolute fair point. Brexit is being betrayed. Text to 84850. And tell me, do you think that a no confidence vote, or indeed people voting against the deal, might damage our chances of leaving at 11 p.m. on March the 29th next year? If that's how you feel, tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And I say that because there is in fact a dilemma I think, that everyone faces, having not gone for this back in July. And, of course, Facebookers, you can watch us there and comment there too. John is a new caller from Weston-super-Mare. So are they heroes or villains, John, these people?
Oh, hi, Nigel. Pleasure to speak to you. In my view, the Rees-Moggs and Steve Bakers were quite right in actually publishing their letters of no confidence. What's frustrated me immensely is the Boris Johnsons, the David Davis, which my understanding is they haven't put letters of no confidence in. They put the party before
yes.
what they really think, which can't be right, because I read Boris's articles in the Telegraph. They're excellent articles, very, very well written. But they really need to start putting the country first and putting their head above the parapet.
John, I agree. I mean, not only if you read Boris's articles, is he, by not putting a letter in my view, putting party before country, he's also putting party before his own conscience, isn't he?
He is. It's just incredible. I read parts of the draft withdrawal agreement and things like money transfers going on to 2030, the ECJs, another 8 years worth of influence. It's just awful. But also people like Joe Johnson, who I applauded for resigning from the cabinet for completely different reasons in some ways, because he knows, though, we're losing democracy, and that can't be right. And really, he was quite right in doing that, but he should put a letter in of no confidence to the Prime Minister, because in effect they've got no confidence. And I heard the Nick Ferrari discussion this morning, and I was spitting at the radio.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
It's just incredible that they have no idea really on how annoyed the country is to do that.
Well,
and I do think we need to plan really harshly for a World Trade Organization Brexit, so that we actually get something like what we voted for. With Theresa May there, we'll have nothing. And as soon as she's gone, the more chance we've got preparing.
There's no
properly.
chance with her there of getting anything that resembles Brexit. John, thank you very much indeed for your call. Ralph is a new caller from Eastbourne. Good evening, Ralph.
Hello, Nigel.
So tell me, are they heroes or villains in your eyes?
Well, the ones that are resigning are heroes.
Right, okay. Okay.
Because it's now clear that our government was determined that we should never leave. We were promised that our government promised us that we would they would abide by the country's decision, but it's now clear that I think they know better. What arrogance is that?
Ralph, let me ask you to respond to this. I've got a text here from Anton in Devon. He says, I think this was the plan from the beginning.
Yes.
Get a rubbish deal, knowing it would fail, then use this as an excuse for a second referendum or not to pull us out. Why else would she be so persistent on sticking with her deal? You agree with that, don't you?
Absolutely agree, yes.
But Ralph, you're a conspiracy theorist, surely.
Yeah, I blame my government more than the EU, to be honest.
Do you know what? I couldn't agree more. We knew that Barnier and Co would be hectoring and bullying and do the absolute best they could to get their way. We knew they'd outfox the Foreign Office, because they always do. Yeah, it's us that have behaved badly in this, really, isn't it?
When the news broke last week, I immediately emailed my local Conservative MP with a one-liner which said, I will never vote Tory again, and that's lifelong. And I hope many will do the same with their MP, because that's the only language they seem to understand.
But, Ralph, what Max Hastings is saying is it's the rebels that will lead to a Labour government. What you're saying is, if Theresa May continues on her path, you and maybe millions of others just won't vote Tory.
No.
Do you know something, Ralph? I think that what our MPs and government ministers need to do is get out of the M25 area a bit more, go to places like Eastbourne and see how Conservative voters like you are feeling. No, absolutely. Even if you are a conspiracy theorist, Ralph. But I have to tell you, I'm beginning to think the same thing myself.
Well, I think a child of 12 actually could have done a better job of negotiation, because all that was needed was, we are leaving, we are in a strong position. Now, in order for you to continue trading with us, your German cars and your French wine and cheese, etc., sort it out. And when you have done so, come back to us with a free trade deal. And if you don't, it will hurt your businesses
absolutely
a lot more than it will hurt ours. So whatever happened to our free trade deal? It seems Canada can get one.
Yeah, I know.
And yet, their regulatory alignment is anything
well,
but
maybe, Ralph.
the same.
Maybe,
but we
Ralph.
cannot.
Maybe, Ralph, if our Prime Minister or Civil Service had ever run their own companies and risked their own money, they would understand how to do a deal. You're a star. Thank you. Chris in Colston says, career first, party second, country third. The Conservatives are finished anyway at the next election, as far as I'm concerned. Very sad. Great show. That's kind of you. Kirk is a new caller from the Wirral. Hi, Kirk.
Hi, Nigel. It's great to be on the show. Basically, what I just want to say is that every time I keep hearing this rebel nonsense, it just incenses me totally. They're actually standing up for the 17.4 million people. They're not like the remainers of the party not siding with, that want to remain in the European Union. I mean, I don't understand why the Leavers are actually being called, rebels.
I know. But you know what, Kirk, and I absolutely agree with that, but there's an even more powerful point. Yeah. These so-called rebels are standing up for the manifesto upon which they were elected under a leader who repeatedly said, we are leaving the customs union, and now is about to sign us up to a deal that could keep us in it for perpetuity. Kirk?
Yeah, because, I voted for Brexit. It was the first time I voted since about 2001 or 2002, I think it was, when Labour were re-elected. It's the first time I've voted for, pretty much anything. And I keep hearing it all the time. Tory rebels, Tory rebels, Tory rebels. No. They're not Tory rebels. They're acting in the interest of 17.4 million people. Yeah. They're not acting on the minority of the country, which I'll probably get, chastised for saying that. But, I don't know how much anger it can generate, when they say Tory rebels, like you said, when
they're standing up, Kirk. They're keeping both promises. The referendum promise, that leaflet that went through our door, we will abide by the result, and the manifesto upon which they were elected in June 2017. Kirk, you make a very good point. Thank you for calling. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's now 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn's told business leaders if the government can't get its draft Brexit plans through Parliament, then Labour will demand a general election. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is expected to meet Theresa May and Westminster opposition leaders tomorrow to discuss the EU withdrawal plans. The serial sex attacker John Warboys is going to have to stay in prison after a parole board panel concluded the former London black cab driver isn't suitable for release. LBC weather, scattered showers continuing mainly across eastern parts of the UK. Strong winds elsewhere, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Louise Knight, and on the trains because of the overrunning engineering works this morning, South Western are still warning of delays of an hour across their whole network. There are several cancellations on the balls as well to and from Waterloo. Disruption is expected for the rest of the day. Southern and Thameslink also have delays and some cancellations. That's because of separate works that overran this morning. There's a problem with the track in Goodmayes area, so Greater Anglia have half-hour delays through the area. And on the roads, the clockwise M25's heavy in patches towards Waltham Abbey at 26. That's after an accident which has cleared. There's an accident on the North Circular going east at Henley's Corner. One lane is shut, so there are delays to Staples Corner. There are delays out of town towards an accident on the A2 just before the M25, and a burst water main in West Wickham has shut Addington Road.
This is LBC.
In business, size doesn't matter. Ambition does. Black Friday has come early. Exclusive pre-Black Friday offers available now. Huge savings across Dell laptops and desktops powered by Intel Core processors and up to 50% off monitors and accessories. So when it comes to price tags, maybe size does matter. Visit dell.co.uk/Black Friday work or call 0800 633 5577.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters: ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
Ah, the great British roast. Where mobiles are set aside, the TV goes off, the family comes together, and everything stops. For the perfect roast, only Bisto Best Gravy will do. Made with real meat juices for that authentic, rich roasted flavour. Ah, Bisto.
This is the sound of the Birch family kayaking down the River Dee, North Wales. Only a skimming stone's throw away from a Holiday Inn hotel. What are you doing this weekend? It all begins at holidayinn.com.
This is the sound of waiting in for your British Gas engineer from the corner shop. Introducing our new Engineer Tracker. Because it's nice to know if you can pop out for milk, we're with you. All part of British Gas Home Care boiler cover from £12 a month. That's just 40p a day. And now, enjoy 1 month free this winter when you buy selected home care products online by the 19th of November. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply.
The office printer. It always seems to fail when you need it most. Best push that 10:30 meeting back. With the American Express Gold Business Card, you can earn membership rewards points on your everyday business expenses. It could all add up to you treating the office to a brand new bells and whistles printer. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it. Search Amex Business Cards.
Terms and conditions apply. Your first year's on your card fee is on us, £125 thereafter, subject to approval.
This is LBC, The Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Brexit passions running high, 27 declared letters in, although we know it's far more than that. Not yet quite reached the magical 48. Maybe it will in the next day or two, and that'll trigger a vote of no confidence in Theresa May. But the people doing it are being called, well, not just rebels, they're being called rude words. And they're basically, we're told, that these people are a faction of fanatics. And yet, actually, as our previous caller exposed, all they're really doing is keeping the promise of the referendum and their own manifesto. And passions are running high across the country. Now, Danny Dyer, who plays Mick Carter in the BBC One popular soap EastEnders, he's got a lot of political views, and he's very upset with David Cameron. He said that we voted him in as Prime Minister, but for his own ego, he called a referendum to get rid of that Nigel Farage. He then goes on, Farage is another. Can't pronounce it, it's too rude, in a suit. Boris goes around talking, too rude, can't pronounce it. Well, bleep, 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 you, Cameron, you posh bleep. I tell you what, Danny, if you've really got some strong views on Brexit and the players involved, we'd love to talk to you about it here on LBC, but if you're going to swear all the time, it simply isn't going to work, or I would suggest impress anybody. And I'm not just saying that because you said rude words about me. I don't really care. Back to your opinions. They can't even organise, I get by Twitter, a letter-writing exercise, yet they think they can magic your Brexit unicorns. Well, I have to say, they don't seem very well organised in some ways, do they? A vote of no confidence in the PM is a vote for a people's vote. Joe, on Twitter, that may or may not be the case. But I tell you what the problem is, and I've been saying this here since July. The longer they leave, either getting rid of Mrs May or getting rid of the deal, the closer we get to the deadline. I wanted her out in July. I believe it could have been done. They then could have had a leadership election taking place during August, whilst Monsieur Barnier was in Nice or Cannes or wherever he was. The risk they face now, they get rid of her. How long will it take the Tories to organise a fresh leadership election? Now, I've been told that the Conservative board could, if they wanted, get the whole thing concertinaed into 2.5 weeks, but the longer they leave it, the greater the risk that the very people that want us to leave on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. may risk pushing so close to that deadline that it could slip. And it would lead, Joe, to many voices, I'm sure, for a people's vote. Matt on Facebook says, yep, the rebels who are acting to oust May are acting in the interests of the nation. Elizabeth says, I've never voted anything but Tory, plus my family of 6. That's 7 votes this betrayal has lost. So there's some strong views. Kevin is a new caller from Sydenham. Kevin, are these guys and girls acting in the national interest, or are they making a mistake?
Nigel, first off, I'd like to say it's an honour and a privilege, actually, sir, to speak to you. The whole problem I've got with Brexit, I voted out.
Yep.
It was a democratic vote.
Yep.
But I feel the media and some people are trying to backpedal for their own interests and agendas, not the country's. As for negotiating, it's a bit hard because over the years it's built up. There's so many different layers in, you can't just pull it apart. And if you negotiate, you can't be telling everyone what you're trying to do because the EU then find out what you're up to.
Well, I mean, isn't the truth, Kevin, that many in our political class have made that Eurostar journey over to Monsieur Barnier's office in Brussels? They've colluded with him, and they've actually damaged any negotiating hand we might ever have had.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. I'm 100% with you, Nigel.
So what next?
People are complaining because we're getting a bad deal. The deal we got on the table at the moment is basically the best we could get with all the other parties trying to fight against it and for their own political interests. You need to be 100% behind the country for this vote.
I get that, and I do think you're right. I do think elements in this country have made it very, very hard, although I have to say I doubt Theresa May and the Foreign Office and Ollie Robbins ever had much will in it. But we've got this deal, Kevin. I mean, do you think these Tory MPs should simply back this deal, or are the 27 plus who are trying to bring her down, are they right?
I think the 27 are backstabbers. I don't agree with the deal, but I think it's the best we're going to get apart from a hard Brexit, because I think if they're screaming there, wait till they see what a hard Brexit would be like.
Well, Kevin, hard Brexit, soft Brexit, these are terms that were invented after the referendum had taken place. But you're saying the pragmatic thing is go with the deal, it's the best we can get.
And once we're out, we can work on it more.
All right, well, Kevin, that's a view, and I think it's a view that I think Michael Gove rather shares that view as well, that at least we will have left the European treaties. And I understand that, Kevin, although, and I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, well, whatever she comes back with, I may just have to say, look, it's not great, but at least it moves us forward. My worry, Kevin, is that what she's legally potentially signing up to here is even worse than EU membership. But hey, that's a slightly separate debate. Kevin, thank you for your call, and thank you for making that point. Kevin on Facebook thinks Labour will vote to stay in the EU. It's only Corbyn that says they won't. There has been, Kevin, a sort of inevitable progress of the Labour Party towards saying we shouldn't leave the EU, and they're getting pretty damn close to it. As I see it, betrayal on all sides. Don't forget, these people didn't just say they'd honour the referendum result, they fought general elections with manifestos saying they would. Nicholas is calling from Rotherham. Hi, Nicholas.
Hiya, yeah. Get ready for the biggest betrayal ever.
Yep.
We're basically... The rebels are there, but there's not enough of them. May's going to win, and she's going to get through what is basically Brexit in name only. I've looked at the 500 and something page document. I haven't said I've read it in detail. I've had a scan through. It's pretty obvious what sticks out to me straight away, and that's the 20XX. There's no end date.
Yeah.
And May's going to get this deal through, and we're going to be stuck in a European Union with no vote, paying vast amounts of money in. We're going to be paying 30 billion for the prospect of nothing.
No, Nicholas, Nicholas, it'll be a lot more like 60 billion, I promise you. And maybe even more than that,
Let me explain my position. If I was in government, I am really Brexit. I would be Jacob Reed's Mog's boss on Brexit.
Right.
Right, I would be kicking. All they would have got from me would have been a middle finger after the vote.
So, Nicholas, just quickly, Max Hastings writing in the Times today, so he would say you're a right-wing extremist.
Well, that's just all nutters, isn't it? Basically, right, Project Fear starts now. What we've got is they're going to come out with everything to get this deal through. It's going to be the worst thing in history if it's no deal, and if it's no deal, your kids are going to be born with AIDS, and that's what's going to be coming out next. That's how bad it's going to get.
So what do we do, Nicholas? I mean, you actually think she's going to get this through the House of Commons, don't you?
I do, yeah. I think she's going to go around with lying through her back. You always say that she doesn't like to lie. I think differently. I know when she's lying, her lips move.
Well, she's certainly doing a bit of it now. And interesting, Dave on Facebook says, Nicholas, heard nothing from the past 2 years from Mrs May. Now suddenly she's everywhere. So she's outselling this deal very hard, isn't she?
TV, she don't even like to talk normally, and when she does, she usually cocks it up. So, it's getting ridiculous how bad she's getting, and the lies are coming out. You said she don't like to lie, like I said.
I get the point. I understand your point of view. Nicholas, I think you're wrong. I think Parliament will vote this deal down. I really, really do. But I thank you for calling. Kieran is a new caller from Blackburn. Hi, Kieran.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I am well. Now, I'm being told off by everybody, including Dave on Twitter, for calling these 27 rebels. But whatever you want to call them, are they doing the right thing or the wrong thing in your view?
In my view, I think they are actually doing the right thing, because I don't think that Theresa May has given us a good deal.
No.
I think that's quite clear. It's not been a good deal at all. I think some people will say that it's down to self-interest that these politicians have done it, and I'm not going to deny that. It may well be the case in part as well.
Well, hang on, Kieran. Some of them have resigned jobs, ministerial jobs. They're £50,000-60,000 a year worse off. So actually, there's a bit of principle here, isn't there?
I would say there's a mixture, though, because the fact that a lot of these Brexiteers who have signed these letters or submitted these letters in have been trying to get a lot of media attention, really. And I think the whole point of that is to make them seem bigger than perhaps they actually are. But it is also interesting to look at Theresa May, that I feel like in this last couple of days, she's really been forthright with the media. She's been coming out. She was on Sky News recently. She's been talking to business leaders.
Well, LBC
She's really
was
trying to sell it to the public.
The Nick Ferrari show on LBC was her first big interview. But yeah, no, she is out there trying to sell it. Kieran, give me a prediction. Do you think she'll get this through the House of Commons or not?
She's not got a chance.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. No, I mean, no one's really supporting it at this stage. I think what they're trying to do is essentially leave it as late as they can do, so they try and put MPs in a position where you think, right, you've either got this deal or you've got no deal.
I know.
I think that's what they're trying to do, but I personally don't think it's going to wash, and then after that, it's going to be chaos.
And will they get... Well, I'll tell you what happens after that vote will be very interesting. But do you think they're going to get rid of her, Kieran, or haven't they got the guts?
I personally think once it comes down to the actual vote, if they get the 48 signatures, they may well do, because the idea of Theresa May staying on for another year and she would be secure for a whole year,
I know.
I don't think it's really going to wash with a lot of Tories.
All I can say is I really, truly, honestly hope you're right. Thanks for the call. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's now 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn's told business leaders the Prime Minister has negotiated a draft withdrawal agreement with the EU, which is bad for Britain. The Labour leader's insisting a good Brexit plan should include a radical programme of investment and fundamental changes to the way the economy works. While Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is expected to meet Theresa May and Westminster opposition leaders tomorrow to discuss the proposals. The black cab rapist John Warboys will stay in prison for at least 2 more years after a parole board panel concluded he isn't suitable for release. And the man known as Nick, whose claims sparked an investigation into allegations of a sex abuse ring at Westminster, has been told he will face trial next March.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Theresa May will today confront the Gang of Five cabinet Brexiteers by saying she will not renegotiate the EU withdrawal agreement. Conservative MP for Harwich and North Essex, Sir Bernard Jenkin, joins me now. Will you be writing a letter?
It's crossed my mind.
Andrew Bridgen, who's Conservative MP for North West Leicestershire.
I'm hopeful and confident that we will have the required 48 letters by the end of today.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
I love you.
Celebrating 60 years of rock and roll legend, Buddy Holly.
Why do you miss my baby kisses every day? It's getting closer.
His timeless classics with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
That'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day.
From the producer who brought you Elvis, If I Can Dream, Buddy Holly, True Love Ways. Out now.
Sorry, Mrs. Mills. Your boiler needs replacing.
Oh no, what would you recommend?
Well, I see you've got a Bosch washing machine.
Yes, it's never let me down.
Exactly. I'd recommend a Worcester Bosch Green Star 29 CDI. It's really reliable and it's been awarded a Best Buy from Which. And with the Bosch Easy Control, you can even adjust the heating from your phone. So simple, your cat could do it. To find your new boiler, a local installer, and receive up to a 10-year guarantee, search Warm as Worcester.
A good summer. Finally. When your kids go to bed. Oh, finally. Making a profit. Finally. A business bank doing something different. Finally. Like giving cash back on your business account. Introducing the new Santander 123 Business Current Account. Finally. A proper reason to switch. Cashback up to £300 annually on credit turnover. Monthly fee £12.50. For UK-based companies with up to 2 directors, owners or partners. 18 plus T's and C's apply.
At Boots, we want to help you be protected against flu. If you're over 65, pregnant, have certain medical conditions or are a carer, you can get a free NHS flu jab. Book your free NHS flu vaccination in-store, on our app or at boots.com/flu. Boots, let's feel good. England and Wales only, funded by the NHS, subject to eligibility criteria, all bookings subject to stock and pharmacist availability. Ask your pharmacy team for details.
You can play People's Postcode Lottery for just £10 a month, and winning postcodes are announced every single day. This December, there's even more prizes. Over £14 million is guaranteed to be won. Enter your postcode before midnight on the 22nd of November to play in the December draws at postcodelottery.co.uk. PPL manages lotteries on behalf of good causes. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly.
Someone's knocking at the door.
Divorce. It affects every part of your life. You, your family, your home, your finances. And if you're a man facing divorce, perhaps even one you don't want, the situation becomes even more complicated. It's at times like these that you need a professional you can trust. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordell.co.uk, office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag FarageOnLBC.
Well, are the 27 people who put their letters in, who want to get rid of May, are they doing the right thing, or will it lead to Labour getting in? Should they perhaps just accept this withdrawal agreement, which I've called the worst deal in history? But before we get back to that, 77 people are confirmed dead and 1,000 unaccounted for in these horrendous wildfires that have been taking place across the state of California. Donald Trump did visit over the course of the weekend. And I want to go to Simon Marks, LBC's US correspondent. So, Simon, we're dealing with the aftermath at the moment, I guess.
Well, it's still ongoing, certainly as far as the campfire is concerned, Nigel, just north of San Francisco in the Sacramento Valley area. They've only got that blaze 65% contained. It has already burnt 150,000 acres, and that's the blaze that we believe has claimed at least 77 lives, with 1,000 people still missing. And there are those here that say, look, if 1,000 people were missing in some kind of a natural disaster here on the east coast of the United States, it would be garnering a lot more attention than these fires have garnered out on the west coast of the United States. The list of the missing runs 26 full pages. No one can be certain exactly how comprehensive it is, because this fire took hold so quickly and so rapidly that people had to make immediate arrangements, possibly to stay with friends outside the area that was hardest hit by the blaze, possibly to try and stay behind and weather the storm. And so it's very difficult to know.
So we just don't know.
We just don't know how high this death toll is going to rise, but I think we do know that it is going to rise above the double-digit figure that we're currently seeing, and you can get a sense of the desperation in the voices of some of those who are getting caught up in this conflagration. Here's one man who has been directly impacted by that campfire in Sacramento.
We have nothing left. We have nowhere to go. No one knows what to do. We're all living minute by minute out here.
It has been a desperate fire season. I can tell you that I was out in California back in September and visiting Lake Tahoe, and at the time the Lake Tahoe basin was covered with smoke from forest fires earlier in the fire season. Down in the Los Angeles area, they're celebrating the fact that they have managed to bring the Woolsey fire under control, 95% contained now, but that leaves survivors of that particular fire who have been sheltering in relief centres wondering what they should do now, because if their homes have been destroyed, what on earth do they go back to?
Well, the roads are closed, so we don't know how to get. Where do we go? How do I get to my vehicle down the road? How do I get the part to fix it? Where do I go? Do I walk out with my bags? And then what?
Those are the stories of people who survived that Wolsey fire, now wondering how on earth they're going to put their lives back together.
I don't want to politicise it too much, but obviously Donald Trump does not get on very well with the governor of California. But has he, from central government, offered any assistance to the victims?
Yes, he has, of course. And as you know, Nigel, he was out in the California area over the weekend, a visit to California that was not entirely lacking in controversy, given the fact that he didn't seem able to remember the name of one of the towns that he has visited. But you're absolutely right. He and Governor Jerry Brown of California and the man who's about to become governor of California, Gavin Newsom, they are not philosophically aligned in any way politically.
That's a slight understatement.
However, it is interesting to see the three of them there working together, standing side by side during Donald Trump's visit. They have been in tremendous amounts of communication as the federal government has offered support. And there are some back here in Washington who look at that tableau of Jerry Brown, Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom and they say, look, with the House of Representatives about to change sides here and the Democrats about to take over, maybe the fact that those three men were able to find some common ground even at this terrible time in California suggests that there may be an opening for Donald Trump to find a way of working with some Democrats as his administration moves forward.
Very, very interesting. And I tell you what a good thing to see bitter political opponents uniting. And, hey, it is a real tragedy. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Well, extraordinary to me that in modern-day America 1,000 people could be missing. And as Simon said, some will have left and gone to stay with friends, but it's an horrendous situation. Back to the 27, back to the vote that's going to come on this withdrawal agreement. Are the people opposing Theresa May, are they just a bunch of fringe fanatics, or are they standing up for the national interest? Phil says, if May doesn't change the deal, there'll be more than 48. Leadsom, etc. are trying to get it to change, but if they can't, they'll put the letters in. Phil, this withdrawal agreement isn't going to be changed. Barney has banked it. And Mrs. Merkel has said there's no time to change any of it. You know, they've got us. It's game, set and match to the EU in these negotiations. And I wonder what the five of them think they're doing. I really don't understand it. Tim is a new caller from Dorking. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, are these people standing up against the deal doing the right thing or not?
I have utmost respect for what they're doing, and that's coming from somebody who stood for UKIP 6 times, one election in which you came down and helped me campaign, and also somebody who's campaigned for 20 years for Brexit. But I actually think we should accept this deal for what it is and get out in March.
So you're, as a committed UKIPper and Brexiteer, you think we should just sort of collect leaving the treaties and sort everything else out afterwards?
Well, I think so. I think we're in massive danger here if we don't accept this particular deal of ending up with a second referendum. Now, I personally think we'd win a second referendum, but the way the establishment are, they will get this referendum in and they will try and win it and they will throw everything at it. And I think we're in massive danger of the Brexiteers lining up with the likes of Anna Soubry and all those other ghastly people who want to keep us in the EU, and we're playing their game. We need to get out. You know more than anybody, this is a war, not one battle. It's a war of attrition.
Well, do you know what, though, Tim? I listened very carefully to your argument. A couple of weeks ago, I was sitting at home with a cup of tea, thinking in private, maybe, just maybe, we have to accept we can't get everything we want in one big fell swoop, and we should accept the fact we're going to leave. But my worry, Tim, is that we're leaving one treaty for another. And
let's not, but don't forget, Nigel, that the withdrawal agreement, a lot of the stuff that people are getting worried about is a backstop, which may not come to fruition. Okay, it might. The future relationship is still being discussed as we speak, so fair play to the 5 people that are still in the cabinet. Spain has said today that they're not happy with the deal because they don't believe that it helps them out with Gibraltar, so there is still scope for that deal to be altered. I honestly think it's the only way we're going to leave. We're going to end up with a second referendum.
Here's my problem, Tim. That for us to withdraw from the customs union at any point in the future needs the consent of the European Union.
Yeah, only if we go into the backstop.
Well, yes, but whose choice is it whether we go into the backstop? It won't be ours.
Well, no, but you've always said yourself, we've got to be positive about the future. And we've got to be positive.
Well, that's why I can't support this withdrawal agreement, because it seems to me we're leaving ourselves completely at their mercy. And that's why, Tim, I have changed my view on this over the last couple of weeks, and I now think it's worth the risk. And I do accept your point. There is a risk, that Parliament, forces Article 50 to be delayed and tries to put a second referendum upon us. But, Tim, I just think this deal is so bad, it's just not leaving.
It's not perfect, and I think we all thought we were going to get a better Brexit. But let me put it this way, Nigel. If 5 years ago you'd been offered the deal that we're getting now, before the referendum, you'd have bitten their hand.
No, I wouldn't.
You would have.
I would not.
You said it yourself that the Norway option. You said it before the referendum that the Norway option is worse than this option. This deal ends free movement of people.
No, it does. No, Tim, it does not. And this is it does not. And this is the biggest lie that Mrs May's putting out there. She talks about ending free movement. Tory supporting newspapers put her over the front pages. Actually, as Sajid Javid said yesterday, we can now start a new conversation on immigration. This deal...
Well, he may well have that conversation.
This deal does not end free movement. She says that because that's what our next deal is going to be. Just like they said in 2010 in the manifesto, they'll reduce to tens of thousands. They said it again in 2015, again in 2017. Tim, our Prime Minister is not telling us the truth.
It's in the deal. It says it's in black and white that the free movement is ending. It's black and white in this withdrawal agreement.
Yes, but when's it ending?
Well, it's ending as soon as we finish in the transition period.
But we could be stuck in the customs union in perpetuity under this deal.
Yeah, but the customs union is not relevant to freedom of movement.
Well, I tell you what. Ultimately, the EU will defend its four freedoms.
Oh, of course it will. Yeah, but that's the single market. It's different to the customs union. We're not going to be part of the single market, which is the benefit of this deal.
I do not believe, Tim, that this deal in any way ends free movement. I think it's absolutely insincere of her to push it the way that she is. Tim, I can see there is a split here in the Brexit camp. I just think this deal is so awful that I can't accept it, but I take your point. There is a big risk in this game, and I understand it. I really, really do. Tim, I thank you for your passion and for your call. Well, Tim there, committed Brexiteer, thinks we should bank this and say, fine, that's it, we move on. Any of the promises about how this ends, ultimately, for all the people I've spoken to whose legal opinions I respect say we're effectively at their mercy, they've given us nothing in this deal. Literally nothing. And now we're going to battle between now and Sunday for a political declaration towards the future, into which the other side are going to insist that we don't get back control of our fisheries and other things. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here at LBC. It's 6:45 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn's told business leaders if the government can't get its draft Brexit plans through Parliament, then Labour will demand a general election. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is expected to meet Theresa May and Westminster opposition leaders tomorrow to discuss the EU withdrawal plans. The English Football League has announced tonight it's agreed a 5-season deal worth £595 million with Sky Sports for its domestic broadcasting rights. LBC weather, scattered showers continuing mainly across eastern parts of the UK through tonight, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Louise Knight, and I'm afraid the disruption continues for South West trains. It's all after the overrunning engineering works finished late this morning. They're warning of delays of an hour and several cancellations across the whole of their network, and disruptions expected for the rest of the day. Southern and Thameslink also have delays because of separate works that overran. Onto the roads, the anti-clockwise M25 is heavy between Clackett Lane services and Sevenoaks at 5 after a car caught fire. Clockwise, it's heavy from Staines at 13 to 16 at the M40 after a minor bump, and it's clockwise heavy in patches still towards Waltham Abbey at 26 after an accident now on the hard shoulder. Expect delays out of town on the A2 towards an accident at the Danson interchange, and in West Wickham a burst water main has shut Addington Road.
This is LBC.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
There's only one way to take afternoon tea, with fresh scones, clotted cream, damson jam, and finger sandwiches. There's only one way to serve a Manhattan, with rye whiskey, sweet red vermouth, and Angostura bitters. And there's only one way to sail transatlantic, on the world's only ocean liner, Queen Mary 2, with a thrilling arrival past the Statue of Liberty into the city that never sleeps. Yes, there's only one way to sail transatlantic, yet so many possibilities on board with Cunard.
Sometimes you wish you could just magic things better. Like that time you tried to paint your walls a sparkly shade of unicorn. But you don't need to be a magician to fix things, because Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable. So for decorators, plasterers or other professionals in their trade, just pop online, make your wish and they appear like magic.
At Experian.co.uk, we know being single's no fun. That's why we do everything we can to help you meet your ideal match, your data self.
Until I met my data self, I had no idea which credit card was right for me. He was able to show me the ones I was eligible for before I even applied. It really has changed my life.
Find out how your data self could help you make better financial decisions at Experian.co.uk. Experian Limited is a credit broker, not a lender, working with selected lenders.
Is Donald Trump a dangerous provocateur or a great entrepreneur? Does the Me Too movement empower women or undermine them? Does the country need a people's vote, or have we already had one? With independent opinions from the best British journalists, read a magazine that makes you think. The Spectator. Open for debate. Try a month free at spectator.co.uk. Credit card required. Future subscription costs apply unless cancelled 7 days before end of trial.
Do you ever feel like getting back under your duvet in the middle of the day? Ferroglobin is a great-tasting liquid formula with iron, which contributes to the reduction of tiredness and fatigue and normal formation of haemoglobin. Ferroglobin from Vitabiotics at Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, leading Brexiteer Boris Johnson can expect a bit more stick from the Remain side, because the stories come out today that the 3 water cannons that he purchased and refurbished as Mayor of London, costing £320,000, have just been sold for £11,000. And the reason, of course, they weren't ever used is because the Home Secretary, Theresa May, banned their use. So you can see there's quite a long-running feud that's really been going on between these two people. Now, very, very interesting point that Rebecca makes on Twitter. She says, everyone appears to think that this deal won't pass the Commons, which is a fair assumption, but has anyone considered that the EU 27 might reject it too? Because I note, via Euronews, Spain is very unhappy with it too. Rebecca, it's a very, very fair point. Gibraltar, way before Northern Ireland and the border was ever being talked about, it was Gibraltar that was being talked about. That was going to be the impossible, insoluble problem. But imagine this, Rebecca. It gets through the House of Commons. It gets through 27 national parliaments. Then it comes to the final vote, and that's in the European Parliament, where people like Mr Verhofstadt will decide whether this deal goes through. And I could face the same dilemma that Jacob Rees-Mogg and the others are going to face in a few weeks' time. Do I, as Tim, our previous caller, said, just say, look, this is not, it's not good, but at least it moves us on? Or do I stick to the view that I have right now, that actually, in many ways, legally, what we're signing up to is even worse than being a member? So that's, in the end, where this game goes. Let's go to Reading and speak to Ewan, a new caller to the show. Good evening, Ewan.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on, Nigel.
Not a little bit. So, are these people doing the right thing, or is it the road to ruin?
I think it's the road to ruin. I mean, if there's a vote of no confidence, who are the Tories going to put in power to negotiate with the EU, who've already stated that that's it? We're not going to. We're not going to budge.
Well, maybe, Ewan, the truth is this: there never was a negotiation with these people. They were always going to be absolutely impossible. And maybe we should have done this the other way round. We should have said to them, here's an offer, take it or leave it. If not, we're leaving on WTO terms. Because I think, Ewan, if they'd done that, the German car industry would have insisted that Monsieur Barnier and Mrs Merkel came running after us. Maybe we got this whole thing wrong.
But the thing that really baffles me in all of this, why didn't Theresa May's cabinet know what was going on all the way through these negotiations? Why was it such a big surprise?
Because
last week.
Because, and just as with Chequers back in July, because she trusted the civil service to get on with it, the Brexit secretaries, have effectively been demoted. I saw it said the other day to being the sort of footstool for Ollie Robbins.
But if I ran a business and I didn't inform all my fellow directors and I made a fundamental decision, that's just not acceptable. The cabinet should have really given her a hard time.
But Ewan, isn't that a reason for supporting my argument in this and not yours? Isn't that a reason for getting rid of the boss?
Well, I think it's deplorable how she never kept the cabinet informed all the way through the process.
Well, I totally agree. She's put the whole thing in the hands of the Remainers, like Ollie Robbins and the civil service. Ewan, she has done a dreadful job, in my view.
But I do think if it goes to a no-confidence vote, and who are they going to get in charge to replace her? The EU ain't going to entertain David Davis or Boris. They're just not going to talk to him.
But I think...
where does that leave us?
I think, Ewan, after this withdrawal agreement, we're done with it, aren't we? We're done with it. If we are going to leave the European Union in anything like proper, genuine, clean Brexit form, this agreement isn't going to be amended. That's pointless. We've got to get rid of it. We've got to say we are leaving on WTO rules and wait for them to come after us, because they will, Ewan. I really believe
but
it.
Do we pay them the 39 million? Do we stop? No,
of course we don't. We don't pay them a bean. The only ongoing liabilities we've got are pensions for 22,000 people. We take them off the EU's books and we don't pay them a bean. We don't owe them anything.
But that's going to cause a big bun fight, and they're not going to play ball with us, and it could get very messy.
But they're not going to play ball with us anyway. My point is, the German car companies and the French wine producers want to do business with us. We want to do business with them. We can leave on WTO terms and signal on day one we will not charge any tariffs for European goods. In doing that, we will get European...
need to make out what that plan is for the end of March and how that's going to be done without disruption.
And speed... Well, I think speed is a huge problem, and that's the other difficulty, and I will now accept, what you said earlier. The big difficulty is getting rid of May now doesn't leave much time. Ewan, great call. Thank you. Sue is calling from Guildford. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening, Nigel. I'll talk to you again.
Yes.
I couldn't believe what your previous caller, Tim, was saying about, accepting the deal. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And by the way, you've just pinched my saying what I've always said. We should have given them an offer and said, we're leaving, we're trading under WTO rules, and I'll tell you what, they would have been begging at our feet to do a trade deal, because like you, the car manufacturers in Germany in particular would have marched to Parliament and said, hang on a minute, give us a deal.
Well, Sue, when Trump threatened to put big tariffs on German cars, within a couple of days, they bundled Juncker into an aeroplane and he got off to the White House to meet Trump. And of course, but Sue, the people running our negotiations have never worked in business. They don't understand the fundamentals of negotiating, and nor did they understand how strong our position was.
No. And when it comes to business, the business people are now lobbying to say, we can't come out without a deal, which I think we should have done all the way along. Right? That's the only way we're going to get a true Brexit. I think all they're thinking about is the short-term gain, because they can't be bothered to do anything else about it, but they're going to reap long-term pain, because they will not be able to trade with other countries around the world without the EU saying so.
But Sue, the problem is, a no-deal Brexit has been so demonised by the press and so demonised by the CBI and people like that.
I was reading an article in the Telegraph that Lord Lamont, Norman Lamont, wrote, and he said that he doesn't see what the problem is with a no-deal Brexit.
No, and I've met plenty of business people like Tim Martin, the boss of Wetherspoons.
Yes, I admire him greatly.
And he says, look, there are 12,500 products we buy in the shops that have tariffs put on them by the EU. We could, for ordinary working folk, we could make them have cheaper shoes, cheaper underwear, cheaper food. Doesn't sound... Oh, and cheaper wine. It doesn't sound too bad to me. So you're a star. Quickly going to go to Nathan in Birmingham. Nathan, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. I think it's a complete betrayal. Theresa May is the betrayal of the national interest, and the rebels, I don't like to call them rebels because
No, I know.
they're acting in the national interest and what 52% voted for.
Well, maybe you could call them heroes, Nathan.
Heroes, perhaps, yeah. Jacob Rees-Mogg for Prime Minister. At least to do a better job. But no, seriously, I think it's definitely a positive thing that you've got the 1922 committee and Jacob Rees-Mogg acting against Theresa May and.
Well, not yet. I mean, Nathan, there are 27 letters publicly, and we know it's much higher than that. Do you think they're going to get to 48 and trigger a vote of confidence in Theresa May?
I don't, unfortunately, personally think they'll get to the target of 48. However, the pressure there should hopefully drive Theresa May to change something or other.
Okay, all right. Nathan, let's hope so, but I doubt it. And finally, David says, on your show yesterday, Vince Cable said he supported another referendum, but he didn't support the first one. Just needed to get that off my chest. David, nearly all the prominent people supporting a people's vote were vehemently opposed to the first referendum that we had on this. Just one of life's little ironies. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show. I'm back here in London tomorrow at